They say the veil between the living and the dead is thin, that on certain nights, in certain places, it frays, and something reaches through. Most will never notice. Most will go their whole lives without feeling the weight of unseen eyes watching from the dark. But some are not so lucky. Imagine this: footsteps in an empty house, a door slamming all by itself, the feeling that you're never truly alone. Sounds like a haunting, doesn't it? Or maybe just a particularly dramatic draft? Who's to say? But for the Perron family, this wasn't just cracky floorboards and a spooky breeze. This nightmare was very real. Tonight, we delve into one of the most infamous hauntings in history. A house so drenched in terror that even the legendary Warrens come running. Shall we begin? Our story takes us to Harrisville, Rhode Island, 1971. The Perron family, 5 daughters, 2 parents, 1 family dog, and an entire cast of not-so-friendly spirits. When the family moved into the Arnold estate, they were hoping for a fresh start. But you see, my darlings, some places have memories. And this house? Oh, it remembered everything. The parents were not the first to live there. And the ones who came before, they never really left. Yes, my darlings, this house came with a buy one ghost, get 9 free deal. No refunds. Let's meet our poor unfortunate souls, shall we? First, we have Roger and Caroline Barron, your average hard-working parents. Then, their 5 daughters, Andrea, Christine, Nancy, Sydney, and April, all bright-eyed and full of life. Their new house was beautiful in its own way, a sprawling farmhouse, nestled in the embrace of an ancient tree. Except for the small problem of their home was being haunted. From the moment the parents arrived, something felt off. The house was cold, unnaturally so, even in the dead of summer. The family dog, a loyal and gentle animal, refused to step foot inside. At first, the parents brushed it off, but they quickly realized their home had a few extra guests. Some were harmless, a little hide and seek with spirits, the occasional mystical broom sweeping by itself, a faint smell of flowers in empty rooms. Almost charming, isn't it? But then there were the other ones. Doors slamming, objects flying. The smell of rotting flesh would appear in random corners of the house, lingering for minutes before fading away. But this was only the beginning. The disturbance grew bolder. At first, they were merely whispers and misplaced objects, but soon the house begins to show its true nature. The mother, Caroline Barron, bore the brunt of the house's wrath. She would wake in the middle of the night to an unseen force tugging at her sheets. A sudden chill would spread across the room, followed by the sickly sense of decay. In House of Darkness, House of Light, Andrea Barron describes a terrifying experience her mother, Caroline, had one night while sleeping in the Arnold estate. Caroline woke up in the middle of the night, completely paralyzed, unable to move or scream. Standing over her was a horrifying figure of an old woman. The entity had a grotesque face with a crooked neck and dark empty eyes. Caroline recalled that the woman appeared to be wearing a tattered dress and her head was bent to an unnatural angle. The figure glared down at her and in a raspy voice uttered chilling words.
Get out! Get out! I will drive you out with death and gloom.
Caroline was unable to fight back, trapped in her own body as the sinister presence loomed over her. When she finally regained movement, the figure had vanished, but the feeling of overwhelming dread lingered. At this point, Roger Perron was desperate for a logical explanation. Maybe it was the wind, Maybe broken pipes? Maybe a particularly aggressive case of sleepwalking? No one really knows. Meanwhile, the guests saw shadow figures. Sydney get dragged from her bed, and little April, she started talking to a spirit named the Lonely Boy. It was no longer just a feeling, the house was alive, haunted. The reason was not known to the Baron at the time, but this wasn't just any house. No, my dears. This was the Arnold estate. A home with a history as dark as a moonless night, numerous deaths, suicides by hanging, drowning in the nearby creek, poisoning that was never fully explained, tragedies stacked on tragedies. Some believe this was more than coincidence. They call it a curse. And at the center of it all, a name kept repeating over and over. Bathsheba Sherman. You see, Bathsheba Sherman was a charming lady born in 1812. Local legends say she was a witch who sacrificed a baby to the devil. The child was found with deep wounds to the skull. Some say a large sewing needle had been driven into its head. Told you, such a charmer. As legend has it, before Bathsheba died, around 1885, she stood beneath a great tree, raised her hand to the sky, and swore her soul to the devil. Then, before witnesses, she took her own life, hanging herself from the very tree that still stands near the house today. Talk about going out with a swing. Now, did she actually kill the baby? Who knows? But what we do know is this. Bathsheba hated other women, especially mothers. And when Caroline Barron moved in, well, let's just say Bathsheba didn't bake her a welcoming pie. Unless you count throwing things at her as hospitality. One of the most intense examples of her suffering, however, was when Caroline Perron claimed to have been pinned to the floor by an unseen force and her body was allegedly scratched by invisible hands. These scratches were often deep, leaving marks in the shape of 3 distinct scratches, which some interpreted as a mark of evil or an indication of demonic presence. These attacks left Caroline terrified and emotionally exhausted. Her health declined, her body weakened, and then she wasn't herself anymore. It was believed that she was under the influence of Bathsheba, that she was being possessed. The family feared they will not survive. Her daughter, Andrea Barron, stated in her book, House of Darkness, House of Light, "My mother was a woman who was tough as nails, but I saw her lose a grip in a way that no mother should have to. She had nightmares every night. She had bruises all over her body. She didn't even know how she got them. The house drained her spirit, and in some ways, it took away her health. She was exhausted beyond belief." When things got truly unbearable and all hope seemed lost, the Barons called in the big guns. A husband and a wife who had spent their lives fighting against the darkness. Their names were Ed and Lorraine Warren, the world's most famous paranormal investigators. Lorraine sees dead people, Ed studies demons. Together, they were busting ghosts before it came with a theme song. They confirm what the Barons already feared. This was not just a haunting. This was a full-blown demonic infestation. Translation? You're all doomed. The Warrens conducted their investigation. They set up cameras, interviewed the family, tried to uncover the truth. But while they were searching, The entity had already closing in on its target, Caroline. She became more withdrawn, more pale. The bruises worsened, and then one night, she spoke in a voice that wasn't her own. And that's, my darlings, is when the real horror began. Ed and Lorraine determined that the family was in serious danger. The activity was escalating, and Caroline Barron was being physically attacked. Lorraine believed that there was a demonic presence within the house, and after consulting with other spiritual experts, Lorraine knew there were only one option left. They needed an exorcism. On a cold night, in the center of the house, the Warrens performed what would become one of their most dangerous rituals. They arrived at the farmhouse, armed with holy relics, prayers, and unwavering faith. But the moment Lorraine stepped inside, she felt it. A darkness, old and unrelenting. She sensed Bathsheba, and Bathsheba knew they had come. It was time to confront the entity. Ed and Lorraine gathered the family for a seance, a ritual meant to communicate with the spirits, but the house had other plans. Andrea Barron, in House of Darkness, House of Light, described her mother's exorcism night.
That night, I saw my mother in a way I never wanted to see her. She was no longer herself. Her voice was guttural, like something that didn't belong in her body. She was levitating above the floor. Her eyes rolled back in her head, and she wasn't even conscious of what was happening. It was as if she was being taken over completely. That night, she became someone else entirely.
As the seance began, Caroline's body shook violently. Her eyes rolled back. Her voice twisted into something unrecognizable. She spoke in tongues. Her screams echoed through the house. The force inside her was fighting back. Then Caroline's chair lifted from the ground. In full view of her family, she was thrown across the room with inhumane strength, crashing into the floor. Gasps filled the air. The children sobbed in terror. Lorraine knew this was no simple haunting. This was possession. Ed Warren took command. Holy water was sprinkled. Prayers filled the air. The room trembled as Ed commanded the entity to leave. Caroline withered. Her body shook unnaturally. Then silence. Caroline collapsed. The energy in the room shifted. The entity, weakened but not gone, had retreated. The Warrens had done all they could. But there was no happy ending. The hauntings continued, though less violently. With no solutions left, the Barons did what any logical family would do. They stayed for 10 more years. Why? Something about financial troubles, not being able to move? It wasn't until 1980, nearly 10 years of torment, they were finally able to leave the house that had nearly claimed them. But they never truly escaped. Even years later, they still reported seeing spirits, and Caroline believed Bathsheba had followed them. Ed and Lorraine Warren documented the case as one of the most disturbing hauntings they ever faced. They believed Bathsheba's spirit had never left, that she remained tied to the land, a force beyond time. The Perron family's haunting remained one of the most chilling and well-documented paranormal stories in history. It inspired The Conjuring, one of the most terrifying films of all time. Today, the family had moved on with their lives. Andrea, the eldest daughter, continued to share the story through her books and public speaking, while her sisters have largely stayed out of the spotlight. Their mother, Caroline, tragically passed away in 2012, while their father, Roger, has kept a lower profile. The farmhouse still stands, and its legacy as a site of terror remains preserved in the stories of the Perron family and their ongoing connection to the haunting they endured. So, my dear darlings, do you think that the house is still haunted? Some say yes, some say no, but one thing is certain. When a house whispers, leave, you might want to listen or stay and see what happens. Sleep tight, and if something tugs your blankets tonight, maybe don't look. And with that, the lights goes out.